Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to my kind of still timely November wrap up on the 7th of December. But I always do it on the first Sunday the next month. So, yeah, we're just going to roll with it. I had a pretty good reading month. I read 13 books, which is, there's something sticking out there. But we're going to roll with it as well, with that one as well. 13 is in the range. Depending on how big the books are, it's always between 10 and 15 books that I read in a month normally. So that is good. Because we are really nearing the end of the year, I'm completely caught up in my own statistics, shenanigans, bonanza, however you want to call it, because I want to reach a certain number on the still to read, and I want to have a certain number when it comes to the big project, 1001 women I want to read. So I'm kind of cornering myself, and I do that entirely to myself. Nobody's forcing me. I don't even have a Goodreads goal. I mean, I set the goal at 17 books because the 17th is my birthday date. But yeah, the end of the year, I'm such a statistics nerd, and I'm so happy when that all works out. But that also means that my reading is less, let's say, mood determined, but rather numbers determined. Anyway, the numbers for November, and I'll put a picture up here just in a little bit. So I read 13 books, and because it was nonfiction November, most of them were nonfiction. 11 of them were nonfiction. So 2 fiction books. I will talk about those 2 in a minute because I haven't, even though I have read one of them at the beginning of the month, but I haven't talked about it in my mid-month check-in. I had one translated work, which was also one of the very few translated nonfiction works. I'm still having trouble finding translated nonfiction that appeals to me. I'm looking at my numbers here. I read one book for the 1001 Women Challenge. That is one of the fiction books. I still haven't made any progress in the Read Europe challenge. You remember the challenge that I created for myself to read at least one book from each European country, and I think I have 50 countries, and I'm still stuck in Belgium. I still haven't read the book for Belgium yet, so I'm fine with it. I don't plan on reading the Belgian book in December. It's probably not going to happen. So we're going to try to have a fresh start in 2026. I had 3 rereads, and I read 3 books by male authors. So that's as far as the statistics goes. Starting, like I said, with the 2 fiction books that I read in the month. And the first one was for the 1001 Women Challenge, was an Australian book, a modern classic published in 1902, and that is Miles Franklin, My Brilliant Career. Her full name is, I think, Stella something Franklin, but you know that the name Miles Franklin probably from the most important literary prize in Australia, the Miles Franklin Prize. But Miles Franklin was a woman, the author. I mean, she was born in 1897. And she died in the mid-20th century. And this was her debut novel. I read it with Nicole from Noteworthy Fiction. We'll leave a link, of course, to her channel down below. So this was her debut novel, and she wrote it when she was between 17 and 19. It's highly autobiographical about her growing up in a small village in Australia, coming on hardship in terms of the financial situation of the family, because the father was not a good businessman and he lost a lot of money. They moved. She had to work as a governess for a while, in real life, I mean, as a governess for a while. And then she wrote, when she was 17, she wrote this book, which is amazing, I feel, because if I look at the language of the book, I'm just completely blown away that a girl of 17 or a young woman of 19, I think it took her 2 years or something, could have accomplished this. By the way, yes, the book was published 1901 because it took a while until she found a publisher. The first part starts with looking back on her early childhood when she was 5, 6, 7 years old, and when, you know, the first deception of her father, who was her hero and seemed like a fantastic person, and then he squandered money away and he started drinking. So that's what the main character in the book, Sibylla, also experiences. And I'm not only amazed about the language of the book, but certainly in the first third, the way a teenager can look at her situation and reflect upon the position of women, like the position of class. It blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. However, I did not gel that much with the 2/3 that followed. It turned into a bit of a whiny story, which is okay because she was 19. So I don't blame her, but it's not something that I'm really interested in reading. And it was the 2/3 that followed, even though the title is My Brilliant Career. And in the first third, she really wanted to be a writer and she wanted to be different and not to be, succumb to the expectations of her class or gender. Excuse me. But then it was, shall I marry Harold or shall I not marry Harold? Shall I marry some other guy or not? Or it just, I gave it, in Goodreads terms, I gave it 3 stars because the language is fantastic, because she was so young and it was a debut, and because of the first third. So I would say give it a try, but I cannot wholeheartedly recommend the book, except for the first third, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. So that's one of the fiction books I read in November. The other fiction book I read is this collection of interconnected short stories by Ursula K. Le Guin, Searoad, Chronicles of Clatsant. That sounds, I said that I think in the hall when I talked about the book first, that sounds like fantasy because Clatsant sounds like a fantasy play. It's not. The book was published in 1991 and it is contemporary literary fiction set in a fictitious town, Clatsant, on the Oregon coast. But there are a lot of towns or small villages with similar sounding name, which in my ear sounds very Northern European, but it's actually Klatsani, for instance, is the town where Raymond Carver was born, and that's an indigenous name. So anyway, but this is set in that village, and there are, like I said, interconnected short stories, all take place in the village. You have some recurring characters, but not many. Most of the book is stories about individual people, either visitors or people who live there and run a hotel or guest houses, things like that. There is one long, which I would almost call a novella, but 80 pages about one family, the women in one family, because I have to also, the book is heavily focusing on female main characters, and certainly the novella has a multi-generational tale about females in a family. You even get at the end of that novella, you get the biographies of each of the females. I really, really enjoyed this. I love the language, Le Guin's language. I love the way she is able to give us a fully fleshed out character in just a couple of lines or pages, because she tells us something about the character, what they do or what they wear or eat, and you can immediately picture this as a person. So and the melancholy atmosphere of this seaside town, a little bit run down. I mean, not dilapidated, but not like Cannes or something. It's rough. The weather is rougher, and the town or the village is rougher as well. But I really, really enjoyed this. I read this, by the way, together with Adam from Memento Mori, and because we make our way through Le Guin's fiction work, and I think we have 4 fiction works that we want to read left after this. So, Bleeding Lipstick. This was a very successful the fiction read in November. Then I want to talk about 2 non-fiction books. One briefly, because I think I talked about it in my mid-month wrap-up quite a bit, even though I hadn't finished it yet, and that was Sarah Vowell's Unfamiliar Fishes, published in 2011. And I read this with Rachel, who unfortunately doesn't have a channel, but is a very, very loyal subscriber and viewers of many of us, I think. This is the history of Hawaii after the first missionaries, U.S. missionaries, came there in the early 19th century until the annexation at the end, or towards the end of the 19th century. I've never read Sarah Vowell. She has a her very own way of describing things. She has a lot of humor. And this one is following her journey to discover the history of Hawaii. What I thought, I really liked it, and I learned an immense lot. She has a fantastic way of giving you information without info dumping. Except I felt for the last maybe 30 pages, when we go towards the annexation, it was very much bum, 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 bum facts, as if she had to, I really have to get that all in, and then I have to finish the book. Before that, her style was much more conversational, telling us about her journey to Hawaii, her meeting people there. And I also have to say the structure in this book was sometimes a bit messy. A lot of names, and so it was not an 100% success for me. I will certainly read more of her work, because I think she is a really good writer when it comes to, sentence to sentence stuff. She has my sense of humor, a sense of humor that I appreciate, and she writes about interesting things. So if you're interested in the history of Hawaii in that time frame, I would certainly give it a try. But like I said, beware of the fact that it sometimes, I felt it was a bit muddled, and the last 30 pages felt really rushed to me. But it's still, like I said, I learned an immense lot, and I enjoyed certainly my buddy read with Rachel, but I also enjoyed the book. And then I read a memoir. I think I told you that Elif Shafak is one of these authors. I read her memoir, Black Milk, published in 2007, translated from the Turkish by Hande Sapsu, Hande Sapsu. Sorry about that. Elif Shafak is one of those authors that I want to laugh. And I read a couple of her novels. I told you that before. They didn't work for me at all. I didn't think they were very good. I didn't like the language much. Could be the translation, because I think some of them were originally written in Turkish. She now writes in Turkish and English. She lives in London since, I think, more than a decade and a half even. So I thought I'd try her nonfiction. Maybe it would be a way in, because that worked with other authors for me. It didn't work, unfortunately. So this is her memoir after she gave birth to her first daughter, first child, in 2006, and had severe what you have after giving birth. You know what I mean. Postnatal stress, depression. Sorry, the word just flew out of my head, but I'm sure you know what I mean. Postpartum depression. Is it so difficult? Postpartum depression. Anyway. And then she wrote this book, which was published fairly soon after. She climbed out of the depression was able to climb out of it after 6 months or so. But this book is not so much focusing on the depression. It's focusing, like it said, on motherhood and writing. Because when she was younger, she never wanted to marry. She never wanted a child. She wanted to focus on writing, being a writer, travel a lot. She's kind of a nomad. She taught at the University of Arizona. She taught in Turkey. She went to, so it was not her life that she pictured with a child. And then she met her husband. She got married, and unplanned, she got pregnant, and they decided to keep the child. So it's more about the struggle that professional women or writing women could have when they think about motherhood. And that was all good. It was fine. But yeah, if you have never read a book, maybe if you're a young person and professional or writer or whatever, and you contemplate having kids, and you're one of those people who can give birth, because this is focusing on motherhood, not on parenting, but on motherhood, it might be interesting. But I just thought, yeah, I've seen that, done that, read that. Yeah, I did not like her way of talking about the male involvement in parenting. Elif Shafak calls herself a feminist. I don't see that. Her husband was away for 6 months for most of her postpartum depression, because he had military service in Turkey, and obviously you can't postpone that, even if you just had a child. Well, I don't know the law, so that might be, and he never visited, because that's also not possible. And when he comes back and he's really sorry that she felt so awful, and she shouldn't all do that by herself. And then she asks him, yeah, so you're going to help me take care of the baby when I write? And his answer is, let's get a nanny. And she's fine with that. That's all I'm going to say about her feminism. So Elif Shafak, unfortunately, she is just not for me. And then I just want to briefly mention that, of course, I didn't finish this one. But I'm very confident that I will be able to finish it in December. So this is Helen Garner's collected diaries from 1978 until 1998, I think, 20 years. And I had this weird idea that I might be able to finish this in November. But of course I couldn't. Anyway, so this was my November wrap-up. I'm already a week in my December statistically bound reading, and it's going very well. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, leave me a comment. Looking forward to that, and I will see you all soon in the next one, next Sunday.